Shireen Abu Akleh murder, again, in the hands of an Israeli sniper that the Israeli government said was actually Palestinians, and Western media immediately disproved that. And then what did the IDF do? What did the IDF do?
I don't know.
When a wonderful voice for good, a Christian woman, a Christian Palestinian, and an American citizen, Shireen Abu Akleh, was murdered as she was on her way to one of these refugee camps. She had a press vest on. She had a press helmet on. She was shot in the neck so that she could be assassinated. Okay? This was a major issue. They wanted to do. Sorry, this is really fucked up. They went to her funeral and beat the shit out of people and ripped the Palestinian flag off of her. Palestinians can't have a moment of peace in this fucking world. They can't even mourn the dead. Sorry. The IDF went in and beat the shit out of the Palestinians that were mourning her at her funeral, that were holding her casket, and ripped the Palestinian flag off of her casket. How is that allowed? How can that continue? How do you not see that? That's in the West Bank. This is a Christian woman. This is not a Muslim. This is not Hamas. This is a journalist that was beloved in the Muslim world. And she was assassinated for speaking out and trying to shine a light on the atrocities. It's hard to look, it's very hard to hold my composure on this. This is something I've talked about for years and years. But when that kind of ruthlessness, I sound like fucking Jordan Peterson when he talks about men. Jesus Christ. When that kind of brutality is so normal, so normalized, when that's the everyday existence of Palestinians in the supposed collaborative project with the Israeli government, how can you expect them to do anything but violently retaliate? There's no end in sight for this. And now you have cynical pieces of shit on social media. If you want to talk about social media and people saying stuff on social media, you have cynical liberal commentators that supposedly adorn the politics of radical emancipation, saying, "Oh, how wonderful that Joe Biden is trying to create an exit corridor, a humanitarian corridor for those who are being bombed in Gaza right now to escape through Egypt." That's still ethnic displacement. That is not humanitarian. It is completely unjustifiable. Completely. There is no equivalent. There is no moral equivalence. There is no equivalence whatsoever. And there is no symmetry in the way that this is covered in the Western media. And that is by design. They refuse to show Palestinians as humans. And they have very successfully been able to dehumanize them. There are voices out there. There are voices in Israel. There are voices out there who see it, who see the brutality, who see the endless humiliation that Palestinian people have endured. And I stand with them, and I don't care. I will always stand with them, even if there is a moment of violent retaliation. Okay? They have nothing. They have no allies. They have nothing in the world. And people celebrate their destruction. It's happening right in front of our eyes. There's nothing. There's no equivalent. It is so horrifying that this can happen in the supposed only democracy in the Middle East. the supposed beacon of prosperity in a sea of barbaric Arabs, right? Who do mass rapes and love to behead people. All of these, some of which are true, by the way, I know. All of these are racist canards specifically to heighten the tensions and to justify what Israel is doing in broad daylight in moments that the world even chooses to care about paying attention to what's going on in Gaza. That's why I wanted to make the distinction that what goes on in the West Bank, this is constant. This is every day for Palestinians. Every day. It's crazy. Like, I know it's, you can say like, oh, land back movements are supposed to be violent or whatever, but there's nothing more violent than this. This is the violence. It's just that it's legalized. It is state-backed. So we are not trained to see it as a violent act. That's the difference. It's only violent or it's only terrorism when it's a non-state actor or a foreign adversary that engages in it. And that's why if you look at the United Nations, if you look at British or European authorities that have spoken out, correctly condemned Russian atrocities in Ukraine, you will hear silence when it comes to Israel and what Israel has done and what Israel continues to do to Palestinians. Disgusting. Sorry.
I think I can say, I don't know. Seeing this.
It's fine. I'm good.
Seeing this and hearing you talk about it, I do probably feel like I haven't been as empathetic with the Palestinian experience as I haven't, you know what I mean? Like, I can fully acknowledge that I haven't been 100% empathetic with that. And that, my perspective is different. Or, I mean, not right, but I'm just saying, like, seeing this and seeing you react makes me feel like, some of the dealings I've had with people on Twitter and stuff is, like, even though I disagree, is probably not empathetic enough towards this perspective. This is really sad.
This is just a very, it's just one example of many. It's every life is important. Like, the Israeli lives are important too. I recognize that. It's just that there's no one out there that will speak out, and those who do are immediately branded as supporters of terrorism. I'm not saying you're doing that, Ethan, but the reality is, when you have the audacity as like a journalist in British media or a journalist in American media to sit across the desk from someone whose family has been murdered and to say, do you condemn the violence of Hamas, when you have never asked an Israeli official if they condemn the ongoing occupation, when you turn a blind eye to it? I'm sorry, I don't give a fuck what like some random person said about land back movements being violent on Twitter. Because one is the entire state. One is the entire media apparatus. The other is some fucking person on Twitter. And I don't know what the full scope of their perspective is, but I can tell you, I know the full scope of the perspective of mainstream media and the fucking dogs in America and the fucking violent dogs in all of the European nations, with the exception of Ireland, that have regularly supplied weapons, turned a blind eye to the atrocities, and still to this day cynically and in the most disgusting way declare that any kind of anti-Zionist sentiment, no matter who speaks it, could be Jews, could be Arabs, could be Palestinians, could be Muslims, is anti-Semitism. It's so unimaginable. You have people in England, a woman or a man who had a Palestinian flag was seized by the authorities and was arrested. Now they're talking about possibly declaring the Palestinian flag to be a terrorist flag. That conflation between Hamas and the Palestinians is the policy. That is the policy that is cynically built up, propped up, and defended over and over again, so that when babies are dying in Gaza, when children are being slaughtered in Gaza, when settlers spit on West Bank Palestinians and kill them and don't get punished, and as a matter of fact, the families of said victims get punished, when they're ruthlessly thrown out of their homes, you can still always turn around and justify it by either turning a blind eye to the atrocities or only covering the atrocities when there is any sort of retaliation from Hamas or from the Palestinian side in general. And then, sorry. And then we just say, why won't you condemn the violence? Why won't you condemn the violence? You are supporting Hamas.